Four strangers stood around the car's trunk as the man inside beat against the door. His screams, muffled by the duct tape they'd wrapped around his mouth. The first man broke the silence. "Who wants to take the first crack at him?" he asked, crossing his hairy arms. He didn't know any of the other men's preferences, had only worked with a tattoo-covered man in the past, had only heard of the scarred man and freckled boy recently. "I grabbed the dude," Tats said, gesturing to the two others. "Hey," Freckles snapped, his voice cracking. "I kept lookout. If I didn't stop that homeless fuck from wandering to the alley, we'd both be in cuffs right now." "They wouldn't have called the cops," Tats dismissed. "You don't know that," Freckles countered. "Taking that risk would have been fucking stupid. That's why I was looking out in the first place." "I'll take care of it," Scars offered, stepping forward. He reached for the trunk's door. From head to toe, all exposed skin his associates could see were covered in scars, from cuts and scrapes to burns and a variety of other shapes they could only imagine the story behind. "Wait," Harry interrupted before Scars could open the trunk. "Masks. Shit, I didn't bring one," Freckles said, holding his head in his hands. "I gotta get out of here," Tats mumbled. Scars laughed. "If you thought we'd give him the chance to tell anyone anything, you didn't understand the job." With that, he opened the trunk. The man inside screamed again, struggling to his knees while holding his hands up. He had a tough time of it, with a rope tying his hands, knees, and ankles together. Scars pulled him out and dragged him to the ground, both hands around the man's throat. "You struggle any more than you already have, and I'll wring your fucking neck. Not if you understand me." With tears streaking down the sides of his head, the bound man nodded. His screams were replaced by whimpers. Scars smiled. "Good." He pulled the bound man up and gestured to Tats. "Help me carry him." From the driveway, Scars and Tats carried the bound man to the entrance of the cabin. Harry retrieved a toolkit from the trunk before closing it and locking the doors to the car. "Hey," he said to Freckles. "Keep lookout, all right?" Freckles shook his head. "No, I want to be part of this." Harry held up the toolbox. "No, you really don't." Inside, the bound man was brought to the metal chair in the middle of the room. A single bulb hung overhead. The chair was clean, but the floor beneath was stained a reddish brown, the old blood of previous visitors. Harry set the toolbox on the ground near the chair. Scars untied the man's arms and secured them to the chair's armrests with straps. "I'm going to ungag you now," Scars said, finger and thumb gripping the end of the duct tape. "We have questions for you, and if you don't answer them, we'll hurt you. Understand?" The bound man nodded. Harry expected Scars to quickly pull the tape off, but instead, he began to slowly pull it from the skin of the bound man's face. At first, he thought Scars was being gentle, but as the bound man started fidgeting and balling his fists, he realized that Scars was dragging it out. Finally, the tape uncovered the man's mouth, and Scars pulled a balled-up sock out from behind it. The bound man breathed deeply. "Thank you," he told Scars. "I couldn't breathe under that." Scars smiled. "I promise you, by the end of this, you won't be thanking me." Harry stepped forward. "I think it's time we ask him some questions now." "Ask him then," Scars said, not breaking eye contact with the bound man. "Okay," Harry agreed. "So let's jump into it then. Carl, you were the last one seen leaving the boss's storage unit on 3rd and Sunlight before we found it empty the next day. Where's the fucking money?" "I didn't take it," Carl cried out. "I swear I didn't take it. Whoever said I was there last is a fucking liar. Cameras don't lie, Harry said, almost disappointed to hear Carl's answer. Sorry, bud, but if you won't talk, we'll have to make you sing. What cameras? Carl asked, suddenly looking very nervous. Harry laughed. That's the point of having them hidden, so you don't know they're there. Listen, we saw you walk in with empty duffel bags, walk out half an hour later with those bags looking awfully heavy. And now the boss's money's gone. Even I know 2 and 2 is 4. Carl grimaced. You're going to kill me, aren't you? No, Tad said, not knowing whether he was lying or not. We just have to find the money. You're out, obviously. But you don't need to be taken out unless you lie to us. Scars slowly dragged the toolkit from the side of the chair to the stained floor before him, the equipment inside jingling slightly, metal clinking against metal. Personally, Carl, I'd like to hear you lie to us again. I won't, Carl promised. Seriously, I'll tell you where it is. Harry crossed his arms. Okay then, tell us. Carl sighed. I just wanted to pay for my daughter's college, man. I always fuck everything up, okay? It's buried behind my parents' house in Grisham, in 6th Court. White House, left side of the duplex, with flamingos on the lawn. I made it look like a dog's grave. Even put up a little sign that says spot on it. Figured no one would dig it up unless they knew where it was. Tats looked at Harry. Think we should check it out before letting him go? Well, Harry began to say. We might as. No need, Scar said, opening the toolbox. I'll make sure he's not lying. I'm not, Carl promised. Please don't hurt me. I told you the truth. You sure about this? Harry asked. Scar retrieved a pair of pliers from the toolbox. Take a look at me. I know what makes people talk. Harry and Tats looked at each other and shrugged. Beats doing legwork, Tats said. We'll be outside, Harry agreed, opening the door. Carl began to whimper again. Scars waited for the door to close behind him. Okay then, Carl. You tell me where you really hid the money, and I promise I'll make it quick. Lie to me, and I'll make you look like me. Then I'll do the same to your daughter. Carl looked Scars up and down, his eyes welling up. I'll tell you, just promise you won't hurt her. Scars smiled. I'll only hurt her if you make me. The scream started a few minutes after Harry and Tats left the cabin. It didn't take long for Carl's cries to stop, but in that short time, the terrible wails were burned into the minds of Scars' associates. Scars exited the cabin after a few minutes of silence. His hands were stained with blood, which he wiped off on the shirt Carl had been wearing earlier. He was telling the truth, Scars declared. 6th Court, parents' backyard. Harry looked back to the room, then wished he hadn't. Carl's hands were removed, as were his eyes and ears. His mouth was just a gaping maw of flesh and blood. The missing parts were in a pile, the hands mutilated at the fingertips. Jesus, what did you do to him? Covering our bases, Scar said, tossing the shirt aside. Fingertips and teeth for identification. Anything else so he couldn't communicate with anyone ever again. Teeth and prints I get, but why'd we need to do anything else? Tats asked. Harry looked again and saw Carl's chest begin to rise and fall. He's fucking alive? Oh my god! I wasn't paid to kill anyone, Scar said simply, heading for the car. If you want him dead, kill him. Leave him here, and he'll die anyway. Without hesitation, Harry closed the door to the cabin. After threatening their way into Carl's parents' backyard, 2 of the boss's goons dug up the grave, finding only a dead dog inside. Knowing what to expect, all 4 of the associates scattered, expecting more of the boss's goons to come for them. Their first duffel bag was found a week later in the basement of a house owned by Harry. Most of the money was gone, but the bag was clearly the same kind seen on the boss's hidden cameras. Harry was found upstairs, having overdosed on heroin a few days before. No one suspected foul play. Carl's daughter found the second bag at the foot of her bed one morning. The window to her room still wide open. The note inside told her to spend the money wisely, as it's what her father would have wanted. The other 3 men weren't seen in Portland again. Freckles went south, knowing that there was always work for people like him in LA. Tats took a Greyhound to Austin, where he could lay low for a while and consider his options. Scars went north in an old beater he'd bought with cash, a pistol in his lap, a shotgun in the trunk, and a bag filled with money stuffed underneath the passenger seat. He had a promise to keep to the people who gave him his scars.